welcome. Thank you for tuning in with us. I am your host, Karim Zachary, watching the English news on Canal Algérie. To the headlines. The Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, confirms from Turkey Algeria's full edification of its constitutional institutions in line with the guidelines of the President of the Republic. Algeria is commemorating today the December 11th demonstrations, a momentous event in the struggle against the colonial French occupation. The Yokoko Conference in Spain condemns the Moroccan exactions against the Sahrawi people, and Moroccans keep taking to the streets to voice their refusal of the normalization process with the Zionist entity. Good evening, those were today's top stories. First in our news, the proceedings of the 16th Conference of the Council's Union of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation member countries kicked off in Istanbul in the presence of the chairman of the National People's Assembly or Lower House of Parliament, Ibrahim Boughali. He is leading a parliamentary group of the two houses of parliament in the work of this conference, which is entitled Participation, Conscience, Islam, Palestine, Migration and Afghanistan. Ibrahim Boughali affirmed that Algeria, with the leadership of the President of the Republic, has finished building its democratic institution, meeting the popular demands during the blessed Hirak, and that Algeria remains loyal and unwavering towards its positions. The President of the Lower House of Parliament added during his speech on the opening of the conference that Algeria shall remain supportive to the state of Palestine and its people.
Today's Algeria has strived to build its new democratic institutions in line with its people's wishes following its popular movement, the Blessed Hirak. This nation is still faithful to its unwavering positions and principles. In this context, Palestine will retain its spiritual and existential dimensions and significance for all Algerians, especially as it is a sacred cause for the Algerian people and its government. We will always support the Palestinian people in its sacred struggle for its dignity and its right to build its independent sovereign state with Al-Quds al-Sharif for capital.
Still with the same conference and on its sidelines, Ibrahim Boughali had talks with the President of the Arab Parliament, Adel Assoumi. The talks were extended to the delegations of the two countries. It was a matter of developing the parliamentary work, tightening the ranks of the Arab countries, creating a human rights observatory, as well as the preparing for the organization of the Arab Summit in Algeria. At the Turkish Parliament building, the chairman of the National People's Assembly was received by the president of the Turkish Parliament, Mustafa Şentürk. The two parties discussed the means of developing relations between Algiers and Ankara, particularly in the parliamentary field. Ibrahim Boughali also had talks with the president of the National Assembly of Niger, Saini Omaro. The two parties agreed on the development of relations in the security and parliamentary domains. Ibrahim Boughali had talks with the president of the Iranian parliament, Mohammad Bagher Khalipov, as well. In the field of Algerian-Tunisian cooperation, the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, visited the brotherly country of Tunisia on a one-day visit which allowed the two countries to start dialogues on launching a strategic partnership in several fields of endeavor. More details within Askilou.
The Prime Minister, Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdurrahman and his Tunisian counterpart Najla Bouden have co-chaired in Tunis an enlarged working session bringing together several ministers of the two countries devoted to the evaluation of bilateral relations and the completion of discussions on the legal framework in anticipation of the visit of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, in Tunisia. The two officials reviewed the various aspects of cooperation in the fields of energy, finance, trade, transport and public works, and discussed the importance of developing the border regions, completing the integration projects between the two countries to consolidate the foundations of integrated development according to the common vision of the two countries' leaders.
We've made great strides in order to put these files in their final stage. These files related to all economic and commercial sectors, from energy, trade, industry, public works, and all the other fields. All these protocols will be signed during the visit of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, in the coming days, and we are here to prepare well for this visit.
سيد رئيس الجمهورية عبد المجيد تبون في الأيام المقبلة.
On the economic level, Tunisia is one of Algeria's main partners, particularly in the energy, public works and water resources sectors, as well as in the field of investment and development of border regions. The two sides highlighted the long-standing and historic bilateral relations, underlining the willingness of the two countries' leaders to promote cooperation in order to usher in a new era based on economic integration and complementarity and bilateral strategic coordination.
Africa by Incube May program is coming to an end with concrete results. This unprecedented incubation program, which brought together for the first time in Africa and Algeria 16 startups from 5 different countries, aims to address issues faced by African, Algerian and multinational companies. This event witnessed the presence of several ministers, a strong indicator on the state's willingness to support knowledge economy and free initiatives. Details with Manal Maafa.
It is a unique program in Africa and Algeria. For the first time, 16 startups were incubated in Algiers. Startups from many countries such as Tunisia, Ivory Coast, Cameroon and Senegal. We are very happy that we got chosen, knowing that 1,200 African projects participated in this program. 12 contracts have been finalized with the partner companies of this program. The objective being is to encourage the initiative spirit among project leaders and develop entrepreneurship. It is a first here in Africa. This program incubates 14 African startups. Via this program, we aspire to make of Algeria a true innovation hub. This program, launched on January 28, 2021, enabled African startups to discover the Algerian ecosystem and develop partnerships with the Algerian companies. It also aims to bring together startups from Middle Eastern countries next year.
In Oran province, the 61st anniversary of the demonstrations of December 11, 1961 is commemorated in the heart of the city at La Place des Victoires, the name given to a square where thousands of Algerians defied the colonial France. In Esquilou again.
It all started in this place known as Place des Victoires, called since Ben Abdelmalik Ramadan, and it happened on December 11, 1960. A historic date when the heart of El Bahia or Wahran province vibrated to the same rhythm of the national fervor to demand the right to independence. On that day, the Algerians were determined to make their voice heard and showed to the world that they were capable of defying colonial France and claiming independence.
While the negotiations began with the National Liberation Front in the city of Melun, in June 1960, General de Gaulle wanted to maneuver with what was called the Third Force, which was the rival of the National Liberation Front. And that is why there were demonstrations of Algerians as a response to that led by the Europeans. It was also a way for the Algerian people to affirm their attachment to the FLN.
On that day, hundreds of Algerians fell as martyrs, but their blood would not be shed in vain. In Oran, as everywhere else, a wind of freedom is blowing, against which French colonialism will remain powerless.
As part of the commemorations of the 61st anniversary of the December 11, 1960 demonstrations, the Ministry of National Defense scheduled a rich program, which includes conferences, sports, competitions and photo exhibitions. Several units of the National People's Army were renamed after Mujahideen or war veterans of the National Liberation War. The ceremonies were held on Thursday and supervised by the commanders of the various military regions. More details on the story with Manal Maafa.
This operation concerned various sectors across the national territory, such as the 2nd Military Region, where the commander of the 2nd Military Region, Major General Jamal Haj Al-Arousi, named the 12th regional grouping of companies of the Iran headquarters after the Shahid Busta Habib. The Major General Jamal Haj Al-Arousi also inaugurated the new headquarters of the military sector of Iran. The commander of the 1st Military Region, Major General Ali Sidan, chaired over a ceremony during which the operational sector of Ain Dafla was renamed after the martyr Tayyib Rabah. At the level of the 4th Military Region, the headquarters of the 413th Autonomous Motorized Infantry Unit of Al-Wad was named by the regional commander, Major General Omar Tlemcani, after the Mujahid Jawida Abdrazaq. The 47th Intervention Group of the National Gendarmerie in Gamar will bear the name of Shaib Mohammed Lakhdar. For his part, the commander of the 6th Military Region, Major General Mohammed Ajroud, supervised a ceremony during which the 603rd Unit of Detection and Radars Control of the military sector of Ain Saleh was named after the Mujahid Ma'arraj al-Jilali. These ceremonies were attended by the military administration and the civil authorities, along with family members of martyrs and war veterans who were honored on the occasion and were given symbolic gifts.
The 45th European Conference on Solidarity with the Sahrawi people, brought together speakers from European and African countries in addition to representatives of the government of the autonomous community of the Canary Islands. Algeria was represented by members of parliament in addition to delegates of the Algerian National Committee of Solidarity with the Sahrawi people. Rania Al-Bahri has the details.
The 45th European in support for the Sahrawi people, initially scheduled for November 2020 but postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, brought together speakers from European and African countries, in addition to representatives of the government of the autonomous community of the Canary Islands. Algeria was represented by members of parliament, in addition to delegates of the Algerian National Committee of Solidarity with the Sahrawi people. This conference will take a unique path because we are in Las Palmas, next to the Sahrawi territories. I would like to go to Western Sahara after the conference, but this won't be possible. The Sahrawi people are on war. This war binds us. We, as International Solidarity Organization, we raised several basic questions. How and what could the struggle of the Sahrawi people be in these new circumstances, which the Moroccans caused? And this compels us to have parliamentary group in all countries. We can even challenge our governments for the sake of Western Sahara. The Security Council now has not said anything so far about the situation of this war. It's time now to take decision regarding the Moroccan aggression that turned few months ago from peace negotiations into a state of war and oppression of the population, with armaments coming in particular from the Zionist entity, especially drones, to control the area and attack the Sahrawi people and the Algerian truck drivers as well. So there has to be a radical change, and we have to consider how we will respond to this. In recent years, UCOCO has strengthened its organization chart while ensuring that interests of the Sahrawi people are preserved and that the conclusions of the debates are taken into account.
The president of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Brahim Ghali, affirmed during a graduation ceremony of new cadres of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army that the current stage requires the development of the military and combat capabilities of the Sahrawi army. He stated that this development can only be achieved through the field, recalling that the senior officers will apply the combat capabilities acquired in the field, in particular with the resumption of the war against the Moroccan occupier. Moving on to a different story, or still with Morocco, Moroccan protesters are still occupying the streets to denounce the adventurous policy of the Makhzen regime and its normalization of relations with the Zionist entity. These protesters are undoubtedly determined to defy the order forces of Morocco and make their voice heard against the normalization of the kingdom with the said entity. To COVID situation in Algeria now, according to the Health Ministry, 210 new confirmed cases, 160 cases of recovery and 6 new deaths were recorded during the last 24 hours in Algeria. To a different matter, anti-COVID or still with COVID-19, an anti-COVID-19 vaccination remains the only safe way of preventing against the pandemic. Citizens continue to flock to vaccination centers to receive their jab. More details in this story with Rania Al-Bahri.
Vaccination remains the best means of prevention and protection against COVID-19. Citizens continue to flock to the vaccination centers to receive their first injections. I came to take my first dose. It's the best way to protect myself. During the day, we receive up to 50 people. They all come here to be vaccinated. We keep saying that vaccination is the means to protect themselves and their lovely ones. To avoid the consequences of a new wave, an additional dose of the vaccine is more than recommended. We have received instructions from the Ministry of Health on the need to provide a third dose of vaccine. This dose is recommended following the observation of a drop in the immune system. More than 10 million Algerians have been vaccinated, of which 4.7 million have received the 2 doses. The fight against the pandemic continues as long as the barrier measures are still respected.
The lady of Algerian music Fatouma Limiti, better known as Salwa, and who passed away on Thursday in Algiers at the age of 86 following a cardiovascular accident, was buried after Friday prayer in Al Alia Cemetery here in Algiers in the presence of her family and a group of artists and citizens. Indeed, we belong to Allah, and verily to Him is our return. To sports now. After qualifying to the quarter-final of the FIFA Arab Cup being held in Qatar along with Egypt, the national football team are to face Morocco in Big Derby. The game seems to be tough for the two sides, yet the Desert Foxes are determined to secure their berth for the semi-final and continue the unbeaten run of the first team. Well, that's the end of our news. Thank you for watching. Good night.